Rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could you please, for the record, do the roll call, please?
Director Davidson,
I'm also here. Oh, this is going to be a fun meeting. I can starting off right. Okay, at this time, item number 2, public comment. Do we have anyone online? Nobody online? Nobody here for, there is somebody online? Okay. No hand up for public comment?
Can you
Okay,
see that screen though? We can.
okay, Francisco, the microphone is yours. Go ahead.
No, I just said hello. Thank you. No comment at this time. I have questions as we get into the agenda items, but that's a different story. Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, well, congratulations on Measure Ed.
Well, I think it's a win for everybody. Now we've just got one more hill to climb and y'all are in the way, so watch out.
Yes.
okay, next item is the approval of the minutes of the January 9th meeting.
Move for acceptance.
Okay, have a motion and I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The minutes of that meeting is approved. Okay, moving on to new business, starting with 4A, Jenny Lind AB construction contract update. We have a service line additive item, potentially. Kevin, you had this report on that?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's our meeting agenda, same thing that we got in the meeting minutes. So I kind of give you a little overview of the projects. This is the Jenny Lind A to B transmission main. It's 20,000 feet of ductile iron pipe with a 12 in 14-inch pipe, 5 pressure reducing stations. And then there's an additive item for 210 service line replacements. And so this line is going to control the pressure fluctuations in the existing distribution system and keep up with the demand in tank B. So it's along Heineman, Hart-Vixen, Baldwin, Usher, and Wind River Drive. So the work includes grinding the asphalt overlay on half the road width. So that's the side where we're putting the main transmission main in, will get repaved and overlaid as part of the requirements of the county.
Is it Heineman? Hart-Vixen?
Yeah, Hart-Vixen in Baldwin, yeah.
I live on Heineman. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I don't worry. So then the project includes a rock clause. So the rock clause is different than, we did this on one other job, the Techite pipeline replacement up in Big Trees. But this is a rock clause where the district pays for the contractor to break unrippable rock. So if they get to a rock location where they can't rip it with a large excavator, and they request T&M for breaking the rock. So I just kind of bring that to your attention. There's currently $50,000 in that allowance item, which gives like 4 days of rock breaking. So there's potential that we could have a change order to cover the rest of the
Did
cost.
we not do potholing?
There's potholing that was done and we hired Mazingo Construction to do part of it. So they did some potholing and we had a geotech and stuff look at it.
Is
It was
there
mainly for
other
utility.
locations that we're concerned about, or?
Yeah, there's rock, there's locations that have rock along there. So that's why we put this allowance item in. I guess Charles put it in there so that the contractor wouldn't put extra money in their base bid. This is pretty common in areas that have rock to have an item where it takes the risk off the contractor and we only pay for the actual breaking of the rock if it's encountered.
We also have an inspector that's out there that, will be able to measure all those quantities and
Yeah, we have they track T&M with so the contractors notified us before they start the work and then we fill out the tags with them.
So Kevin, I've got a question about the nuts and bolts of this work. You're taking out smaller pipes and putting in a larger pipe.
No, the existing pipe stays.
It's going to stay.
Yeah, so the service lines, if we choose to do that, those will connect onto the old pipe. The new pipe's a transmission pipeline. There'll be PRV stations along it. So there's no customers on this transmission pipeline. So this is going to be a dedicated transmission line.
The current line has all the laterals from the house and also fills the.
So there's no
Okay.
removal
So
except
that-
for
Okay.
some small areas.
So this proposal to replace the laterals, they could conceivably stay in place without.
Yeah.
But when you hook those up, it'll going back, be reattached to the original pipeline?
Yeah, I got a slide on that. So if we want to just wait for that, we can, I can explain in more detail.
keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
So the low bids, the base, the criteria for selecting the bidder is based on the base bid. So the person with the lowest base bid is would be the one that we could award it to. So DA Woods is the lowest base bid. And when you add them together, they also have the lowest overall bid. There's a few bidders that had kind of typos between their base bid on their base bids, and when you add them together, their price. So each line item, you multiply the units by the dollar amounts, and that gives you and that's the criteria we use when there's disputes in the overall quantity. So that price, but once again, it's based on the lowest base bid is the criteria written in the bid documents.
Okay, on that specific item, looking at the bid from TNS Construction.
Yeah.
Explain to me what they've got two bids there, and one of them is 200,000 lower. But explain what the differential is. What it says,
So
the typographical error or
It's a
mathematical.
multiplication error on their part. So their overall bid that they wrote on the bottom line was higher than the number when you multiply the unit prices by the dollar amounts. So we go through and do a spreadsheet of every bid. So there's 28 bid items or whatever. So we multiply those and those give you subtotals. And then when you total up the subtotals, it's a different dollar amount. So in this case, it wouldn't affect the bid results because their base bid was the criteria for selecting the contractor. So they were at like, was it 9.6 or 7? Yeah, so they're 9.7. So, but the price that we actually have to go with is a 9.9 because that's the one they wrote out on the bottom of the bid in writing. So we just put that on there to note that the amount submitted does not, so that the amounts don't match when you do the tally of each bid item. Does that make sense? So like if they got 100 tons and it's $150 a ton, you would multiply those together and that would give you a subtotal. And then when you add up the subtotals, you get the total. So there was a mathematical error on the adding of all the subtotals of each bid item.
So they made a mathematical error and it resulted in them actually having their bid submitted at, what was it?
Now the bid number they wrote down was 9.987. That was their certified number that they submitted. But when you multiply each individual bid item, you get a lower number.
All right. Well, it's unfortunate for them, and I think it's perhaps unfortunate for the district as well, because if we said, wait a minute, you had the items and you the the rate at which you bid those individual items came up with a 9.7, not 9.9. What do you want to do? You know, if we, I don't know whether you have the flexibility to do that, but it would have saved us $90,000. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure we do because there was actually multiple bidder questions about this specific thing about how's the selection of the contractor. And we spelled it out in the bid documents and also in the bidder's response as based on the base bid, because we don't know if we were going to do the additive item or not. So we'd want to base it on the base bid. The additive would be just an option for us to add to their contract.
So we're not, this isn't a grant funded project or anything, so we're not necessarily bound to pick the lowest bidder, but we might face a challenge, or how does it work?
We are, unless we were to reject all bids, because this is the process we established for this project. To accept any of these bids, we would have to select the lowest bidder.
And
If we were to reject all bids, we could do a different process.
several of them, right? You know, they're all pretty dang close.
Yeah, no, I think we're really pleased with the results of this bid.
So we wanted to have a little bit of discussion about the service line item and see what the recommendations are on that. So the existing services are they're one service going to two boxes. So there's one service line, and then so the new project will be connecting on to the old AC pipeline that's in the road. So you would put one service in the existing service location and one next to it, and then you'd run two separate lines out to the services. So that total of 210 service lines. And when you do the math, it comes up to a little over $7,000 service line. So the paving requirements of the county, if the service lines are further than 150 feet apart, you just have to patch the service lines. The work that's included in this item would be to put patch paving. So we'd have one side of the road fully paved with new overlay and the other side patch paved. So we have been talking to the county about them participating in the cost of paving the other side of the road, but that's to be determined if that's going to happen or not, because they have some budget to overlay this road. So the downside of not doing it now would be that the road's getting resurfaced and we have a moratorium on being able to cut into that road without having to re-overlay the entire road.
Tell us more about that. I mean,
So
the county would authorize a moratorium on us repairing.
there's different parameters for repairing the road based on the pavement index. So there's A, B, C roads. So right now this is labeled a C road, which is like fair condition, but it's due for, so they have a period after they overlay it. You can't cut into the road unless you restore them.
Well, there are multiple roads. Are they all level C?
Yes, no, they're all level B, except for, I think Wind River's a private road and we're already overlaying that. So the rest of them are, we'd have to overlay the entire lane that we're in right now. So if our transmission main's going down the one lane, we'd be paving that lane. And then the service lines, we'd just be paving the trenches going across the other side.
Isn't the tonnage for the change order later on to add for these services?
Yeah, so it comes out to be about 60 grand, which is a small portion of the asphalt item because we pay that in the same unit price in the base contract. So we did math and figured out it would be about 60 grand in addition to the $1.4 million to do the additional paving. I think the quantities are fairly close, and that 60 grand might already be in our estimated
You're just
quantity.
talking about the patching?
Yeah, the patching would be about 60 grand. And there's a couple areas where the service lines are too close together and you have to overlay that section where they're really close together. So you'd go from one service to the next. But the rest of the areas, it would be just a patch pave unless the county was going to participate in doing a micro surface or something over the entire road.
Kevin, I suppose that the answer to this question is pretty obvious, no, but is there any possibility that we could offer TNS an opportunity to do the service lines for their 945,000 versus the 6.4 that DA Woods, if it truly is an alternate bid.
Well, but assume that they're already staged on the job.
Yeah, they would have to change I'm sure they would want to revise their bid if we were to do it.
Well, we can certainly ask them, but they're gonna have to move everything in where all these bids we're assuming that it's gonna go at the same time. It's not a move back in bid, right?
Yeah, so there's no additional time allowed to the contractor for this work, so they have to do it within the same time frame as they would with the base bid. So, and it's unclear, there's no provisions on exactly, we didn't tell them they have to do the service lines first or tell them they do the second. Anything like that. It's up to them to work these service lines into their main project. So I think it would be, probably difficult to have two separate contractors out there. It could probably potentially cause issues, I would assume, but
Okay,
Talk to us about the need to rehab all the service lines.
okay, so this is not our worst area for service line problems, but it's one of the areas that's bad. So we just had a blow, I think, last week in one of these service lines. So I guess if we don't do them now, they're coming up to their life expectancy. And our guys, we have a service line crew, as you guys know, so they've been putting service lines in. And they actually have to do some additional service lines, I think, before this overlay happens down the road from this project. And then they're also working in Poker Flat. So the bandwidth of this area is not probably on their schedule for the, within the time frame that the county wants to repave this road.
What's the I mean, obviously I know that area in Rancho, but those service lines when was that original line put in? 67? And we've got a couple months left for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that, I think the need is definitely there, and it's a good opportunity to do the project. Why we got, our crews can do it a little bit cheaper, but in some areas, but the opportunity to get this done is, I think, a huge benefit to.
Well, I would think the average age of those laterals has got to be in the 30, 35 year, there's a handful of newer homes there, but it's not, there hasn't been tremendous growth in that area.
Yeah,
Particularly not in the last 10 years.
It's also a question of timing and coordinating the paving and working with the county on the paving schedule. And so if we were to try to rely on our crews to do it either on, right behind the contractor, just the coordination of that, I think would be problematic. And our crew has a less flexible schedule because they get pulled off for emergencies and other stuff. So in the interest of not, wanting to get this done in time for us to complete the paving in a cost-effective manner and coordinate with the county on that, we felt like it was better to have the contractor also just.
Yeah, no,
I'm
absolutely in support of that. I'm just trying to get, the contractor comes in, he does both these things. Is there anything that the county might, because I don't know that the public, we get a lot of grief for these crossings, and they're not always ours. A lot of times they're Alpine Gas or somebody else, but the contractor understands that the rules that the county, and we understand and have talked to these contractors about the timing of the paving. And we're all clear on what the county may or may not require, because
So we have we included the encroachment permit application in the bid that has all the requirements, the 1 foot outside the trench for the T section and all that type of stuff. So, this is basically, we're gonna shove basically 2 whole projects into one. So there's gonna be a little bit more, or a lot more impact to the community. There's no way you can do this without closing those roads. So we gotta understand that.
well, that's a big deal too. It's might as well close them once,
right.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a huge impact to people in this area, especially with these service lines. You're crossing
Talking about launch.
a lot of shutdowns, water shutdowns and stuff, so.
What's the timing of this? Yeah,
So it's 4 months, at least, talking to DA Woods, they got 4 to 6 months till that, till the pipes could be available once it's approved. And once the contract's issued to them, so, because they gotta make this pipe, it's not, they don't have pipe on the shelves anymore in this quantities. So
Isn't
I
that
mean, they
crazy?
could
It's
maybe
just
get started on
crazy.
the service lines first. Who knows what we don't know their schedule.
So we're looking at probably early fall. Well, it'd be nice if they could do those whenever this spring and then, because you don't want to have the outage, a lot of outages during middle of summer if possible, but you know, that's the whole point of this project, or one of the big points is not to have a big outage in that B tank.
Jared, I've been put on notice that people that are making contributions to the meeting should come to the microphone, so thank you. You know, well,
Is that the first time,
I have a question.
Jerry, is that the first time somebody's told you you're not loud enough?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for the record.
I could be wrong about this, but the asbestos cement pipe installed in the 70s is being replaced due to age and poor condition. What I was just told that that's going to stay
It
in
is
place.
not, it's being made into a dedicated feed system.
Okay, but so when it says here that it's being replaced due to age, that's not a true statement. I mean, that's
No, that's not interesting, but that was actually in the bid documents. I don't know why that was copyrighted there, so I don't know why they got put in there.
okay,
that's
but
right.
but
Hopefully with what we're doing with this, we're taking the stress off of the distribution system with making a dedicated transmission line to B tank when the pumps kick on. So you will not have the pressure hammering on those service lines and things such as that.
okay, but wasn't it an asbestos cement pipe and the continuing failures that required us to do that reach A or that reach one?
Reach
pipe?
one was that tar wrap steel where the mortar lining would break out of it, and then over time it would eat a hole in the joints because of the pressures,
Okay,
and that was what we
so
replaced that.
so it's a different type of
Different
pipe.
kind of pipe.
Okay.
Yeah, the biggest problem with AC pipe, it gets soft over time.
Okay. And none of this repaving, patch paving and stuff could be done with that new equipment that we bought?
Not on this scale.
Okay.
The thing about it is with doing the service lines, if we did them now, it makes it to where when we put new pavement down, we're not back in there for a pinhole leak tearing up the road. And then it becomes a bigger deal for us to repave when if there's new pavement or microsurfacing down at that time.
Okay, and you mentioned that there are discussions going on right now with the county about the possibility of
Yeah.
participating. Do you have a sense for whether they're leaning that direction or leaning away from that, or?
They're hard to read.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been positive discussions though. So
Yes.
far. We were trying to set up a follow-up meeting before this meeting, but that had to get pushed. So we'll know within the next few weeks, I think.
what are the different pots? Because the Vista Lago is not Vista Lago, Hart Vixen is the county maintained road, correct?
Yeah,
So
so
there's that pot, which is the county pot, but is there anything in the Rancho road fund that?
they were scheduled to do work on these roads.
Okay.
And so that's what we're trying to coordinate with them on so that we're not cutting into freshly paved, roads or
Right, we want
roads.
to go first
And then see if we can actually leverage their investment in the roads to produce a better product for the community. So that's what we're trying to work with them on, and it's been really productive discussion so far.
Yeah, well, it seems pretty logical that,
Right.
It's a win-win for all of us if they do a cost share with us on these projects.
yeah, no, I agree.
Okay. So you're just asking for us
Yeah, we
to,
thought we'd have the discussions about this kind of engineering committee instead of like for the whole board, so we can kind of flush out any these questions we've had.
mhm.
I think these have been really good.
Okay, well, we've pointed out, or at least I pointed out a couple of typos or misstatements of facts. Can those be straightened up before
Yeah.
it comes to the board? Okay, well, I have And I share Jeff's enthusiasm for getting this work done, so. Okay,
So, yeah.
okay. Francisco, you said that you had some questions about these individual items.
Yes, thank you. And unfortunately, one of our members couldn't attend, so I'm only able to convey what the question was to me. And hopefully, in time, we'll get to it in more detail. But it seemed that there was George Reed bidding twice on the Jenny Lind project under two separate submitting company or joint venture names. Is that
They bid as a subcontractor, so they're allowed to solicit bids to any of the primes.
okay? We expect that the budget allowance of 50K for rock excavation is likely to be exceeded. Is there any kind of process that we're gonna follow to make sure we'd end up, you know, or can we do it cheaper, or is that just the normal?
So the process would be that anything over $100,000 would have to be authorized by the board. So any work up to that amount, we'd have to get management approval here within the district, and then above $100,000 that would come to the full board. So those items, we're going to try to get out ahead of that. If it looks like we're going to reach that over that $100,000, then we'll bring it to the board in advance so that we can make sure we don't stop the contractor from doing the work.
Cool. And it's unknown how well the ductile iron pipe will tolerate the substrate movement that you've repeatedly experienced. What are we putting in different bedding or different?
Yeah, ductile iron pipe is one of the most, I guess, resilient types of pipe for that. I mean, we looked at using C900 PVC and opted for the ductile iron because it's a better product that lasts longer and it's stronger. So I think this is one of the best products you can put in the ground.
Well, even at that, it'll be embedded in sand. It won't be back.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Class 2B and it's got a plastic wrap around it.
Everything on this job is import. So all the native soil will be off-hauled and class 2 AB will be hauled in for 100% import. The contractor has to get rid of all the native material.
Wow.
Speaking of that, I'm sorry, first, go ahead, Francisco, but I have a question.
Do we really have to go to 210 PSI on this because it's a transmission versus a distribution, like the twin, the 8-inch twin that's currently serving both?
Are you talking about for testing purposes?
Well,
I got this one. So we're putting PRV stations along the way. So this is a high pressure transmission main. So the pressure is not going to affect any of the customers along the line. So they'd have PRVs that would regulate the pressure to the distribution system.
So we're going to go a little higher than what this fellow thinks is industry standard of 150, or is the 150 more for the distribution line side?
Yeah, that would be distribution. You don't usually go above 150 PSI most places you don't go above 100, but we have places around the Jenny Lind service area that are up to 150. So yeah, the point of this project is to reduce the pressure.
Okay. We all already have heard that we're likely to see significant traffic issues, and yeah, you're in agreement with that. How is this project going to address the constant leak at the Silver Rapids Hardison, since it's going right next to it?
You mean what's coming up out of the water valves down there in the intersection?
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
That's just groundwater piping in the trenches. That's stuff that won't leach, and it goes to the lowest point and surfaces through the valve cans.
Oh, okay. Well, I was seeing it coming out of a asphalt patch because they said you ought to go look at it. I said, all right. And dry day.
Those are potholes that from the potholing that we did on the project with Mazingo. And the reason that those are just patched right now is so that way we have access to them when the contractor comes through with the main to expose the existing utilities so we don't hit and break them. And then they'll be finished paved when we do the finished paving on the project.
but for the most part, that water will eventually, the groundwater will subside.
By
Hopefully
summertime,
the summer,
yes.
we won't have that.
Yes.
Then we'll know for sure.
We have it in multiple locations. We deal with it in Poker Flat
No,
right
It's
now.
always, it's there. It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah.
And that was it in the area of the Jenny Lynn project. Thank you.
One other thing we didn't address yet, do you want to touch on the materials inspection?
Okay,
Briefly,
yes,
just-
so,
So that we're not, we'll have to, we're gonna bid a separate aspect of this separately, and so in a month or two, we'll be come back with an additional contract for the same project though, so.
For what? Go ahead.
so we have a geotechnical compaction testing that we do on every job. So sometimes it goes on the contractor and sometimes the district hires a firm to do it, an engineering firm to do the compaction testing. So we're getting quotes from compaction testing companies right now. So, and this is a big project, so it could exceed the $100,000. So we might have to, depending on what the dollar amount is, we'll bring it back to the board for approval.
We have local, people bidding that.
Yeah, there's, we got, I think bids from, there's the company that has office in Murphy, a company that's in Jamestown and a couple of companies in Lodi.
So that'll come back to the board separately. We wanted to make you aware of it now, didn't want you to be surprised by that when there's an additional cost down the road on the project.
In the work that we've been doing, or Mazingo has been doing in Poker Flat, have you had an outside company do the compaction testing there?
That's actually through Mazingo. Mazingo has Condor under contract and they are doing the compaction testing on any trenches or
Mhm.
anything such as that, in the county right away. And even around our wet wells, things that we're installing, we do have, but it's through them, but they submit the bills to the district to pay as part of the project.
Okay.
Is that right?
No, on that project, it's all in them.
Oh.
So we do, it's been it seems to go back and forth and we're trying to standardize that. So going forward. So figure out a system and going forward, it'll probably be on the contractor on every project and not on us, because that way the scheduling, if the tester doesn't show up on time or something like that, we're not delaying the contractor. So I think going forward, we'd like to put it, we tested out on a couple of projects. And I'm not sure why this one, I didn't know that.
I prefer to have them under us because they're our QA QC. We dictate when they're there, we dictate how much they're there, and we make sure that all of our compaction testing is done.
But do we have we had delays, in the past where they couldn't get to it in a timely manner, or?
No, because until this last year, we have always done it where they've been under contract with us. So I've. On the
Well, I
jobs-
understand what Kevin's saying, that it's on the, it's, you know, if for some reason they don't show up because we hired them, then the contractor may back bill us for a delay or
Okay, yeah.
something. Yeah.
We haven't had too much of that, but a couple of the companies that we've been using, they've had some problems recently. So it's getting increasingly difficult to get testers out there on the times we want. So the industry standards, it used to always be the agencies doing it, and we like that because it gives us some control and we got a little bit more faith in that we're getting the product we want. But I think the industry standards going away from the agencies providing it, and it's going towards the contractors providing more of their own QC.
Well, maybe we could talk about that at a future agenda item, maybe come up with some sort of a hybrid that still gives us a control, but it's up to them to put them under contract, gives us some authority. So, all right, next question.
Well, I don't know. Go ahead.
On the soil disposal, where are they taking it? That's something too I'd like to get a better handle on, because that's a big business these days, is taking that soil and to my knowledge, I believe that they're taking it all to the Altamont somewhere, and landowners are being paid a pretty good sum to do that. I'd like to get a handle on what that is. Well, we've got property all over the place. I mean, what's to keep us from building a better pad on the 51 acres at Hogan Dam Road? What's to prevent us from doing stuff like
The
that?
bad part with that is then now we are the ones going and getting the grading permit through the county. We are the ones responsible for implementing the BMPs for the SWEP, monitoring, things such as that.
Right, but if we should be looking at a location that we can, it's just like, what was the old thing everyone used to like to do, the environmental,
Environmental
Banks.
mitigation.
yeah. I mean, maybe we need to find, a location, a soil location on one of our, see if any of our properties fit the bill. Or even find up somebody local. I mean, I'd like to learn more about what the parameters are, because if we could keep it in the county, and maybe it is staying in the county, I don't know, but I'd like to find out about that. Because what's to prevent us from, again, the 51 acres there at Hogan Dam. I mean, the property we have over here, it's not really doing a whole lot for us, but is there an opportunity for us to store or regrade and make it into a, we don't want to be developers, but on the other hand, if we have material that we could build a better lot out of and reduce our costs, why wouldn't we try that?
So you're talking about like us providing the trucking to haul the.
No,
spoils
I'm
off?
talking just us, the location,
Just
just
the-
site,
The location on,
because currently they're gonna drive out, probably out of the county and dump it someplace and there'll be a tractor there doing all the stuff that they could be doing on our property.
Like this job, there was talk of possibly Ford's Pit down there being able to take the
Oh,
spoils on it.
oh, well, that'd be great if that was the case.
So there was talk of that, because that is a site that they could take.
Well,
and
it's so
they could
close.
process it.
Sure, yeah.
I think that would be beneficial to getting a better price in the bid if you gave them a designated site you can dump here.
Well, maybe
Because-
even that's the deal that we talked to Ford with. Just say, look, we want to be able to bring all it. How much can we bring there? What's the deal? Because if it'll reduce our trucking, I've always said that about the septic thing, that the biggest cost of having your septic tank pumped is the trucking, 2 hours away. And if we can reduce that, and maybe we go to, a landfill, or not a landfill, but a site like Ford and make a long-term deal with them. It's just something to think about, not necessarily in this one, but.
Yeah, I think there's been some bigger questions on other jobs and I think the only one that we ever say is a possible dump site is the landfill, because we know that's a possible dump site. For, contractors that are out of the area, they ask that question lots of time. So yeah, another pit like Ford or something would be at least put an option in there so they can, we get good price and they know they got a good spot to dump.
Well, yeah, let's get some more information on that.
all those hundreds of truckloads of rock and dirt that came out of the Copper Cove wet well recently went someplace on Burns Ferry Road.
Yeah.
Right there in
To a
Copper.
Gentleman that's trying to do some developing behind the firehouse there.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed local.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with the county right now with making sure it's stabilized through the rain, hydro seeding, doing.
Yeah, it's not an easy
No.
deal, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Rogers. Is this Michael Rogers raising your hand?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, just a point of clarification. You mentioned earlier this was a 4-month timeline from, did I understand that from beginning to completion?
The 4 months is like fabrication of the ductile iron pipe. So we don't know exactly. So until the purchase orders, the contractor issues the purchase order to the pipe supplier. And if they're running 12-inch at that time, they might be able to get it sooner, or 14-inch, they might be able to get it sooner. But the lead time for new orders, if they're not running that size, is 4 to 6 months.
So I think you mentioned that the project then therefore would not commence until early fall. Did I understand that properly?
Yeah, they can't start really till they get the pipe. There's some
Right.
opportunities to do some smaller work items, some the work at the connections and possibly install some of these service lines. So, I mean, there's some potential to start earlier, and there is a potential that the mill's running this size pipe when they order it, and then they could add their order to the existing orders.
So if this rolls into the winter months, then what does that do to construction delays and creating more, stress on the community, more delays, more inconvenience for the community?
Yeah, they should be able to work on this pretty much year round. I mean, they're in the roadway, so the days it's raining, they probably won't work, but the day after it rains, as long as they got their site cleaned up for the storms, they should be no problem.
Okay, thank you.
What's the estimated duration of the budget?
October next year, yeah.
So a year and a half?
Okay, no other hands being raised?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
This is primarily in addition to providing the B tank with its necessary supply under high need conditions. It's supposed to reduce significantly number of PRV blowouts. No.
Yeah, so the service, it'll protect the service lines because it'll control the pressures in the distribution system. So there's like 5 points. Yeah, it takes the service off the transmission line. So they'd be a distribution line they're connected to. So the pressure fluctuations that you get when from pumps and stuff doesn't cause problems.
Great. So we should see a reduction in the crews going out there and addressing things off of what's served out of that 8-inch now.
Yeah, that's one of the main goals of this project.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 4B, the La Contenta wastewater
Thank you.
treatment plant improvements.
Okay, so I was gonna start the presentation, kind of a little overview of where we're at in the service area. So, our treatment plant at the La Contenta wastewater treatment plant, nearing its capacity. So currently we have 1,110 EDUs, equivalent dwelling units. So that's how we measure so single family home would be one equivalent. Apartments, I think, are 0.75, and then some commercials are more EDUs. So the total current service commitments we have in the area, we have agreements with developers, and that's 1,577 EDUs. That's we got LGI, Gold Creek, the elementary school, and then there's existing infill lots that were part of the East 604 that are in that. And then, so we went through the general plan that came out in 2020 and looked at the density of the properties available in that are within the Jenny land or the La Contenta service area. And we came up with a number of 2,250 EDUs.
When you say the La Contenta service area, because the LDI or whatever, they're not in the La Contenta service area. I mean, is
Yeah,
that
so we
a
include,
map that we can look at?
yeah, we have a map, we have pre-designed
Or is it
for it.
just because the service area, there, from my understanding is everything on the north side of the highway that wasn't in 8604 is not in the La Contenta. So is that the
Yeah.
right term to use, or is it?
Yeah, maybe that wasn't the correct term to use. This is all the ones the connections that we see possible.
Okay.
And that's down from the 2695 that was in the 2017 master plan. So we actually have a reduction. So the dry weather flows at our treatment plant is 200,000 gallons per day. So at 165, which is a conservative number for that, you've got 1,212 EDUs available at that treatment plant. So that puts us with about 100 connections available. So
Just out of curiosity, also on now we're using the consumption from what era? Because consumption has changed
yeah, so this is based on the average dry weather flow. So that's how
of our standards. that we have? Our
Yeah,
current
so the-
standard?
There's two different numbers referenced in our standards, 195 and 165. So we use the 165 here. If you use the 195, we're over already. So this is kind of the number that we've been using for this plan. So the key project improvements is the design system meet the current commitments. So this project, phase 3 improvements is what we're calling this, because there was a phase 1 was originally built, and then phase 2 was some other improvements that already made. So we're calling this phase 3 is what this project, we're gonna name this project. So so we're sizing the infrastructure, the new infrastructure we're building, we're gonna size it for full build out. So we're gonna build this so that it can handle full build out, the new infrastructure we're doing. And then there's also be some other infrastructure improvements that need to be made to get us the full build out, but at least the stuff we're building now will handle our current service commitments, and it'll be built so that it can handle the full build out. So the proposed phase 3 improvements would be a secondary BIOLAC unit or equal. That's that basin we have out there that has the aeration in it. We build a second one next to it. That would also give us some redundancy. When the dry weather comes, we can clean the other one out. We got operational benefits from that. Rehabilitating the existing BIOLAC, it's got an integral clarifier that doesn't work very well, and it's just old and it needs a lot of needs improvements, and also needs nutrient removal. So in the future, if we want to do a discharge permit, we need nutrient removal in these items. So right now, we're about 1.5 to 2 times the nitrogen level that we're allowed for most discharge permits. So these new BIOLACs, we need to get the nutrient removal item included in them, so that we can, if we need discharge, stream discharge or something in the future, we'll be eligible for that.
What, did something change with the discharge permit?
No, right now we discharge to the golf course, which is okay. But during winter weather conditions in the future at full build out, we may not have enough capacity in those ponds. So we may want to look at being able to discharge instead of storing all the water.
We always want to look at being able to discharge.
Yeah, so we need to get this nitrogen level down in that lower effluent storage pond in order to apply for a permit.
But those
Discharge.
permits are being issued. What we're talking about.
So
is
we have permits in other.
discharge into Cosgrove Creek.
So that would be something we'd want to look at, being able to discharge somewhere. It's probably would be Cosgrove Creek, I would assume. But so like our other permits where we can discharge, they all have to be at a level 10. I forget the units on it. But right now, our lower effluent storage pond, last month it was like 16. So and then the month before was at 20. So we fluctuate there. So that number needs to get down. So as part of this improvements, when we're already doing work there, we might as well add the nutrient removal. So you go oxidation to non-oxidation. So the different bugs like air and other bugs don't. So by designing the system where it goes through different stages, you can get that nitrogen level down in this BIOLAC, so you could discharge if you want to. And then the electrical improvements, we need more electricity for this new BIOLAC and clarifiers. And then recycled water pipe improvements. So there's a pipe that's undersized going to lower, it's about 3,700 feet of pipe that needs to be bigger. It's a gravity line, it just doesn't have the capacity to take the water.
It's going where?
Goes down to the pipe that goes down to the lower storage pond. That pipe's not big enough to handle the flows, so we'll need to upsize that. And then currently there's a little pump station there that takes drainage water and needs to be improved. Right now they got some trash pumps out there taking care of that. So here's our plan that we came up with. So right now we got on the right, that's the existing BIOLAC. So what we do is this has an integral clarifier, which doesn't work very good. It was one of the early designs. So it's very poor performance. They do make the upgraded one, but we don't really like the design. It relies on cables and all kinds of it doesn't work as well as the traditional clarifier. So we're proposing a secondary clarifier, a new one on that, existing biolac, and upgrade that with new equipment. And then the biolac, another biolac on the other side with a clarifier, Roswell's pump station, the splitter box, so you can send the flows to either one of the biolac units. So we have a RFP ready to go out for this project. So we just want to get some concurrence from the engineering committee on this. And then obviously the proposal for design consultant would come to the full board for approval. One of the big problems is there's not adequate funding in the 5-year CIP to build this project. So the funding, this portion of this project would come from the developers, but it's tough to tell when those developments are actually going to be paying their capacity fees. And then also the capacity fees wouldn't be enough to cover the cost of the project. So we're kind of creating a roadmap to get ahead of the necessary improvements. So when these new developments come online, we'll at least have a plan in place
So
to.
if they wanted to go ahead and do, a couple hundred houses, they could issue a bond or something on the property, pay for these improvements and go forward. Am I wrong?
Yeah, LGI, I think the one developer, they're doing the BOLD program potentially. We
Right.
approved the BOLD, but to come to find out, we don't get all the money up front. They do the BOLD in stages, so you wouldn't get the whole 156 units worth of capacity fees right up front. They would do it in stages. And then we considered a design build approach for this project because it kind of fit that mold. These design build projects aren't like they used to be. The design build where you say we got budget 10 or take bids for design and build and give us the keys when you're done. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's an iterative process where you work with So you select the team based on their qualifications, and then through that process, there's an open ledger that has the price of the project. And as you work through this process, there's changes made, and that ledger changes. You negotiate the price as you go along with the design build process. And then once you get to a place where you're ready for construction, there's an off ramp written into the contracts where you can take the job out to low bid if you want. So that's kind of the direction that the design build's going. But you got to have the money up front to build the project, which kind of makes this one more difficult. So I think that, we're really excited about that, but it doesn't sound like it would fit this project. So the additional improvements, phase 4 would need to be completed prior to full build out. So that would be the wet weather storage capacity of the pond is an issue. So we bought a property for a spray field out there, and that was mainly to protect our, if the golf course went out of business, we have an area to spray our effluent. And then, but over the last few years, the golf course taking a lot more water during the irrigation season, so that's good for us. So it's borderline on that. And then the UV channel, you can see where that white part is right there. We have to eventually, when we get near full build out, we'd have to put additional channel in there to handle the disinfection. And then there was something else that we want to blank on it. Oh, I&I improvements, definitely something we want to work on. That would help with our wet weather storage capacity down along Cosgrove Creek. We had a lot of flow. We had the highest flow ever this last winter, or the winter before this winter, ever there. So if we can fix those manholes, that would be a huge savings on the being able to store water. And then the headworks, screens we need new screens. We would need new screens there to handle the flow. There's some talk about, we're going to talk about Huckleberry. There's options to put some screens down at Huckleberry instead. Is a combination to
Getting back to the manholes, it wasn't really clear on what you're talking about.
So there's manholes that are in the creek, so that when that creek overflows, it can flow into the manholes and it gets into our sewer system. So the I&I improvements would be to seal those manholes, raise them up above the the flood stage, so the water can't flow into those manholes. So we end up
There's a
storing
few
a
of
lot of
them
this.
down 26 that are probably get inundated that are really nowhere near the Cosgrove Creek. I mean, do we know what all those are?
Yeah, we have the pre-design report. I can share that with you. We did a really detailed design report on this whole system, and that identifies all those manholes. And so we have some yearly money that's available for I&I improvements that our construction crew does. So that could be something that they would do on that. That's a low hanging fruit. You know, we're going through the dam raise in Copper. We don't want to do that over here. So the low hanging fruit, the I&I and that type of stuff, we need to take care of that before we go down that route. Yeah.
Well, even in La Cantera, you know, when that La Cantera floods, those manholes are all covered. So,
Yeah, we need to, I mean, it would be fairly inexpensive to raise those up, you know, well above the level the water would ever get. And that way,
you just have to do like the cell phone companies and make them look like a tree.
yeah,
Because they're gonna be higher. Yeah,
Put them high enough to put antennas on.
yeah, well, there you go. I was thinking.
okay, so I kind of want to get your opinion on putting this out. I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about this, yes,
My opinion is yes.
awesome.
I've got some questions on this. I know that we've got EDUs that are based on the 2020 general plan that reduces it from 2250 or from 2695 down to 2250.
Yes,
Since general plans are documents that can be revised.
yeah, they can be rezoned.
periodically. So I'm just wondering about the defensible wisdom of having all these design machinations specifically targeting the 2250. Shouldn't there be some fudge factor in that? Especially
Yeah.
since, I mean, this RFP, you've already identified the fact that we don't have money to build this thing. This is just, you're asking for some money to start this RFP. So realistically, we couldn't entertain throwing any money at constructing this thing until after, for 5 years. Is that?
So yeah, there's some money in there. I think the very end of our 5-year plan right now, but it's not enough. It's a third of what you would need for this project.
Yeah, but I mean, I think to your earlier point too, I'm not sure what a better number would be. And I think as we get closer to implementation, we would double check those numbers and make sure none of the land use circumstances have changed on the ground.
Well, one of the things that we haven't really discussed adequately here is this phenomenon about the state encouraging ADUs. I don't know, but I mean that those types of developments where you can put a 1,200 square foot dwelling unit behind your house any place in the county without a general plan amendment of any kind. I mean, so that's what are other agencies? How impactful has that been to other nearby agencies?
You know, to my knowledge, and for us, it remains kind of an uncertainty out into the future because there's other incentives that the state is putting, you know, in favor of density and streamlining. What they consider streamlining puts an additional burden on the water and wastewater infrastructure. You know, we haven't seen enough of it to have a noticeable impact in our service areas yet, to my knowledge, but you know, it has the potential to have a significant impact on our systems, and we'll have to adjust for that if it starts to happen. You know, we'd have to adjust for that in the cost structures going forward.
When you say we haven't seen enough of it, have we seen any?
ADUs that we would have previously required a second connection for that we no longer can. We'd have to do some research on that and get back to you. I know that we still need to update our policy on that front. So we could bring that back with the policy discussion.
Well, there at a fairly recent Aqua meeting, there was significant discussion on the adverse impacts that ADU really could have on all of us.
It could, yeah, it has the potential, that's for sure.
Okay. Well,
Well, I know the county is, I don't know how successful they're being, but they definitely have a policy. Be interesting to get their play on it. Maybe have somebody from,
We talked to them yesterday about this and they said that they have 3 plans.
Standard plans, yeah.
We talked to the county yesterday at the quarterly utilities meeting and they have 3 standard plans for a 600, 800 and a 1,200 square foot ADU.
they have plans.
So they're pre-approved, so there's further streamlined
What a concept.
density.
What's that number?
There's cities that are contemplating having pre-approved house plans to accelerate the process of construction and decrease the cost of those projects. And so, I mean, I think in this case, the potential trade-off here is as the state requires, you know, as we implement water use efficiency standards and decrease per capita consumption, you know, there might be a balancing to offset in higher densities, but it's going to be a moving target.
That's interesting. I had no idea they had pre-approved plans. It's interesting.
Okay, well, if you, it seems like that you've put a significant amount of thought into this system of requesting and are putting out a request for proposal. But in your discussion with whoever gets selected to do this, ask them, you know, if you're doing this for other agencies, is there a fudge factor that you've been asked to put in?
Yeah.
Well, this is not a stopping point either. I mean, this is just, you know, it's just the next stage. You know, I mean, we're not saying that we're never going to serve anybody beyond this. This is just the next level. I mean, there may be a different site. Eventually, you know, Valley Springs is going to have to turn over, you know, and they're going to have to do something. And if there's any growth over there, they'll have to make major changes. So, I mean, there could be a whole new sewer system over there, most likely in the hopefully not near future, but most likely it'll be operated by us. You know, I mean, you know, that's like, you know, we're not planning to develop everything that's going to ever occur in Copperopolis right at the moment. You know, it just we go in stages. So, but it's important. I mean, we're down, you know, we cannot have a moratorium because of something we did. We have to have a plan in place. We have to have the ability for a developer, if they want to come in here and conform with our county's general plan. That's our job, is to provide infrastructure for what the county has shown in the general plan whenever possible. In this case, we can. So, I mean, I think that's the basic principles of what we're here to do when it comes to growth, is comply with their general plan. We need to be ready for it.
Okay, so you're leaning toward giving our board or recommending to our board that they approve this money for RFP?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, so this would come back to the board after we get a selected engineering firm.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to see if anybody has their hand raised on this item 4B, the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Is that,
Give us a name. I was,
Francisco.
okay, Francisco, go ahead.
Yeah, I was noticing in the agenda packet that before full build out, staff has identified all those other improvements and are not currently included. When would it be appropriate to include it so that we know what size of the pie we're biting into?
So those would be that would be the storage capacity in the lower pond. So that wouldn't come till later. That's what we call stage 4. That's that's basically after the commitments we got now that we'd have to increase that. Is that what you're asking?
Very close.
So the idea is to build these the secondary biolacs so it could handle the full build out. And also our system could handle the current commitments we have. So after those current commitments and some new developers come in, they bring some more money in with capacity fees, then we can make these other improvements that we need to make. Is that your question?
Well, it's like, I don't know how big a thing this is going to be. Is there a way to size it beyond just stating that before full build out, all these other improvements need to be made? Is there a way to quantify what all these other improvements need to be made are?
Yeah, so we listed the known improvements we have in the agenda item, and that'd be modifying the headworks.
No, I read all of them. I just didn't know when they would be costed out. When would we get an idea of what those would add for the total build out? I guess I'm getting what's the total build out charge likely to be if all of these are included?
Oh, I don't have an estimate on all these, but
and we're trying to develop the scope of the project. We can't develop the cost of the project till we have the scope of the project.
So
Well,
yeah, the headworks screen, that's fairly inexpensive. UV capacity, we just did a UV channel at Forest Meadows, and it was, I don't remember the dollar amount, but it was like $300,000. The seasonal tertiary effluent storage pond, this could get very expensive unless we can get a discharge permit. So that's what we talked about, this biolac, was getting nutrient removal on that. Flow equalization, control the filters. So that'd be just basically a tank at the filters to control the flows. Because when you get this, when we get up to full beyond the commitments we got now, there could be some potential issues there. We haven't identified those. The I&I improvements, that'd be raising the manholes along Cosgrove Creek. And I think that's something that our collections guys, construction crew could handle. We might have to bring an outside local contractor in to help us with that. And then the Huckleberry lift station improvements, we're going to talk about that next.
Francisco, you just a point of information that you recognize that there may be existing issues like the manholes that need to be repaired that could be funded through existing ratepayers because it's partially an existing ratepayer issue, but the development of a new treatment plant for new development is solely on the back of capacity fees, not rates. We're all clear on that, right?
Not totally, because I wasn't understanding what this total pie was going to be. If it's all going to be capacity.
What I'm trying to say is there sometimes there can be a mix if there's a deficiency in the treatment plant that is somewhat partially the responsibility of like it exists today. And if we had no more new development, we'd still have to fix it. That part could be paid for through rates. But if it's capacity building for new development on its own, that can only be paid for through capacity fees or connection charges, however you want to call it. So no new development is put on the back of existing ratepayers.
Gotcha. So we're clear then, the comment about it's not in the current 5-year CIP plan is those aren't included anyway in rates, right?
Yeah, we don't have any new developments in the CIP. There's some money in there for rehabbing the existing biolac. I think that's what rehabbing existing facilities because they're
yeah, we have existing facilities there that need to be rehabbed. that would be part of the CIP.
Okay, well, does that conclude your questions on this item?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Looking at that item 3, that additional seasonal tertiary effluent storage, would that be an argument for kind of steering the off-haul material out of the anticipated trenching to storage on site?
Or to raise a dam you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there might be better ways to get rid of the water than build the dam up, but we can look at that.
Well, building the dam up doesn't get rid of the water, right? Just
Yeah,
stores
just
the
store
water.
more water and
But what you keep bringing up that I think is interesting, and I'm, all the years that I've been here, all we've ever wanted to do was to have a discharge permit, like many of them do down in the valley. But I've always been told that it's an impossibility. But we're saying here, we're gonna make improvements to reduce the nutrient level to potentially get, because if you think of the discharge permit in Cosgrove Creek during the high water levels where the dissolution, I mean, we're gonna be putting water in there that's drinking water quality into the muddy mess that's a torrent of Cosgrove Creek, but the state won't allow us to do it. You know, and because of that, we have to buy a bunch of expensive, closely in close proximity to our sewer plant to spray on anything that's excess of the golf course. So it'd be a great benefit, but before we go down that road, I want to know who's got a discharge permit into a body of water.
we have some.
We do.
Who's got one lately?
What's that?
What agency has got one lately?
Stockton just got one for they discharged they built that huge complex at their wastewater facility. So part of their improvements was at their wastewater plant was the nutrient removal so they could dump into the delta.
One of the biggest expenses is land acquisition for spray field.
Yeah, so that's
Not only
spray
that,
field.
but it takes, valuable real estate out of the local economy because it's got to be centrally located.
So that spray field's great for getting rid of the water. It could be, and that's something our construction crew could do as far as putting the sprinklers out there potentially. That could be something that Damon's offered. But as far as the wet weather disposal there, that drains back into the pond. So if it's already saturated and you're spraying on it, it's gonna drain back into that pond. So we gotta be careful about that. As far as trying to get rid of this water during the wet weathers, it's great for during the irrigation season, or if we have some dry spots during the winter time, we can bring that pond down. But as far as calculating the water balance, that water would be considered during the wet weather to be going back into that storage pond.
But I guess the question is, should we revisit the possibility of an NPDES permit after after we implement, or if we were to improve the treatment processes, would we potentially be a candidate for discharge? And, it's a good.
Yeah, I think we want to know the answer to that before we dive too far into the.
Yeah, we'll make
Nutrient.
that
Right.
item on the, when we do this RFP, to look into the options for permits for disposal.
Well, I want to remind you about the discussion about raising the dam in Copperopolis, and that was a less expensive option to raise the dam rather than you get credits for having that additional storage versus spending multiple millions on plant improvements that could be done essentially by raising the dam. So,
Yeah.
If it worked in Copperopolis, it ought to work over there. So just keep that in mind, please.
Okay.
Just before we wrap this up, have you guys been in contact with the new ownership at La Catena?
Yes.
Okay, because it's getting to be irrigation season. It'd be nice to get together with them and just introduce ourselves if we haven't done. We know them. I mean,
We know them, from previous experience, but I think actually that's a great idea, just to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of operations, so.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, unless we have further questions on item 4B, let's go to 4C. This is Huckleberry Lift Station. Kevin, you're a popular guy today, Kevin.
Okay. Okay, so kind of overview, Huckleberry lift station's our main lift station that pumps to this treatment plant we just talked about in La Cantena. So it's through a 12-inch pipeline, plastic pipeline. The existing pumps are incorrectly sized. There's operational issues with the existing pumps at high and low flow conditions. They're big pumps, so there's VFD controls and they don't aren't great. Lift station is subject to flooding. The existing facilities in poor condition. And then we also need to increase the capacity here to meet the need of these developments. Some of the key project improvements. So we looked at originally replacing some of the pumps, but the conditions and stuff, it would be a poor, I think it'd be a poor long-term decision to try to swap out the pumps and switch electrical in a live lift station there. So the kind of the key improvements we're looking at now would be to construct a new wet well with pumps that'd be appropriate size. So we look at 2 low flow pumps and then 3 high flow pumps. Construct a flood wall around the perimeter of the site to prevent that area from flooding. Install new electrical and control building, a new larger electrical service and standby generator, along with the new sized appropriately. And then the decommissioning demolition of the existing facilities. So here's our property on the left. That's the lift station inside there. And on the right that's I think the flow meter vault. And then there's a big area out in the front, the higher side of the property, where you could construct a new lift station. So here's kind of a proposed drawing we came up with. So you can see on the west side of the drawing there, the left side, there's our existing lift station. And so we're proposing a new lift station there. We dug down the ground, and then a new electrical building and the standby generator on the property there. And then we could we haven't really came up with the exact, or I guess it's gonna go out for RFP, but that's kind of like a proposed flood wall around the property there to keep the Crosgrove Creek from entering that area. Well, I had another slide in here, but so yeah, so we wanted to kind of issue this RFP for the design services of this new facility. It's much needed.
That concrete vault with a door on top of it that's shown in that picture, where is that located in this proposed drawing?
It's right kind of where that's the old existing lift station. So that's where that is sitting right there.
Well, I
You can
can't,
see the flow meter wall, and that right next to it is the existing lift station. So you're talking about the picture right here on the left side.
yeah, well, on the right
Talk
side,
about the vault.
the vault,
The vault there is this flow meter vault that is labeled flow meter vault, that white. It's white on the drawing, the picture up here.
okay.
So that's looking out towards the road there.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the topography of that lot slopes from the street back to the left side toward Cosgrove Creek. Is that
Yeah,
What-
and yeah, so we did, if the wall was being put around there, we adjust that level of the wall appropriately, so it'd be a kind of a taper wall as the grade changes.
so the wall would not have to be any higher than the level of the street in front? The top,
I don't know, it might be a little bit higher, but
otherwise
it would flow in the front side. I see what you're saying, yeah.
Was there not an opportunity to add a project like this wall in the disaster declaration from a few years ago?
Damon brought this up to FEMA, I guess, in this location when he did a walk with them, and they don't typically fund these kind of projects.
It was actually the Army Corps. We gave a tour of that site,
Oh.
and I don't know if you might have also talked to FEMA about it as well. But I know we gave we worked with the Army Corps on it and they declined. But we would definitely reach out and see if we can find other sources.
Do this in our hazard mitigation, plan?
Oh, yes,
I think
local
there-
hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah, I think there are references to Costco Creek issues.
Just something to keep on our radar if something comes up. To seek funding for that. Through the fund, hazard mitigation.
Yeah, that's we kind of what did at Hunters, so it's.
So what are you asking us here?
We want to issue RFP for a new lift station.
The answer again is yes.
Okay.
Would you add this to the list that you would be handing to the other engineer?
No, well, we were thinking about, we got two separate requests for proposals that we want to send out, and we're thinking that the kind of design engineer that we use for this project would be maybe like a local contractor type or local engineering firm that does a lot of this type of work. And then the bigger project, the treatment plant would be a bigger firm from the Bay Area or something like that, you know?
Yeah, this is not rocket science here, right?
Yeah, this is not rocket science. I mean, it's pretty well designed already in our plan. So, I mean, I think we have a pretty good scope on what we want.
Okay, my answer is yes also. Okay, do we have any comments from Francisco or Michael on the Huckleberry lift station?
No, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the Reed's Turnpike pump station. Juan.
That's fine, and I'll be presenting the quick overview of the Turnpike, Reed's Turnpike pump station coming up. So the existing pump station is located on Reed's Turnpike Road, Reed's Road, and it moves water from tank C in Copperopolis, and it moves it at 100 gallons per minute rate to the Copperopolis tank located at the historic district in Copperopolis. The existing pump is capable of moving enough water for potable water and fire water. And with the current Copper Valley Town Square development that is located in Times Square. So now the improvements of the project will increase the pump rate to 200 gallons per minute. Plus, it's going to increase we're going to become more reliable. So the existing pump station is pretty much at capacity right now, pumping 100 gallons per minute when to fill up the tank at tank C at Copperopolis. The pump station is subject to cavitation, and that's one of the things that we want to improve with a new pump station. We want to, we're proposing to copy a similar design. We have an existing pump station on Dennis Core in Valley Spring, and we'd like to take the same wall finish. It has this rock, pretty nice looking, and then the inside you can see it's much cleaner and up with new technology. We'll be able to hopefully take care of some of the issues that we currently have right now.
I believe that Dennis Court one was paid for with OES funds from the Pattison Fire. Yeah.
The existing pump station is within the right of way, and if you can see on there it says fence enclosed. The little rectangle, that's the existing pump station, and it's within the 30 feet of right of way. The Weber Gio and Associates is working on the design and the alignment of the new pump. There is a chance that we're going to have to encroach into the parcel adjacent to it. We established communications with the parcel owner. He seems to be willing to work with us, and that's what we have with it. So we're just waiting to get the designs from Weber Gio. The financial considerations was is pretty easy. This, since it's a developer-driven project, it's 100% funded by the project. And this came from resolution 2008-28. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, it looks like to me that the design that you're leaning toward is also a concrete block building, just with the stone covering on the outside. Will you be able to incorporate the existing structure into this new structure?
No, we look into that, and it seems the majority of the piping that is existing is going to be better off just to start all over right next to it.
Start right next to it, but then the old structure would remain in place or remove?
After the new pump station is ready to go, we demolish the old one.
Okay. You could move it.
Well, where do you want it?
Yeah.
It'd be easy to move it, but anyway.
Accessory dwelling, here you go.
It's not quite 300 square feet though.
Prefab.
Okay. And you've explained to the developers of Copper Valley that they're going to have to put up a new building and everything.
They're aware of this, and this is part of the development of Copper Valley. They're planning to increase it, so
Are they good with the rock scheme on the outside? Do they have a different, yeah, I'm not sure exactly where this is gonna be. What's that?
I don't think the architecture's been fully decided on. That was just something that we took them to as an option, that a pump station that we like and operates well.
Well, if they wanna, you know,
They want to do their own decorations, that's fine, I think.
yeah, but, you know, we're not gonna pay for an engineer to do it, but they have some ideas. I mean, you know, it's basically a shed, so it's not that big of a deal, but it'd be good to make it, you know, at least fit in with the area there. So
Well, most of the structures in Coppertown Square have some rock on them,
I just
but
want a little time to make sure we're on the same page.
yeah, but they're also plastered, and plastering over block walls would be far less expensive than covering with artificial stone.
Okay,
I'm telling you.
it's your neck of the woods if you want
Ah. This
to.
is,
We'll have another ceremony of ribbon cutting the Thomas
yeah.
pump station.
Well, you have your name all over the other side of the
well,
county, so.
Yeah, not in a good way.
Okay, funded by others, necessary totally. What could be wrong with that? But, okay, any comments from our observers today? Huckleberry Lift Station? No, this is a Reed's Turnpike, excuse me. No?
Just congratulations on your project there. Get it done, make it look pretty and work great.
Okay, all
Thank you,
right,
Francisco.
guaranteed. We could just put it where it straddles the pipeline that's above the ground. Okay, next item, 4C, Copper Cove Lift Station 6 and 8 construction scheduling impacts.
Okay, I'm just giving you guys an update. We've brought this to you guys before. Due to supply chain constraints with the electrical equipment at these lift stations, this project was scheduled to finish in May. It is now pushed out to October of next year, or October of 2024, sorry. So we've met with Poker Flat HOA, the contractor, our staff. We are planning to be there through summer during their busy time. They know this. We've went over traffic control plans with them. We're planning on attending, myself and I think Kevin, to the Poker Flat HOA meeting on the 16th to go over this with their residents. So we just wanted to give you guys an update as to what's going on this project and, that's about it.
What time is that meeting scheduled?
9:00.
9?
On these shortages, or delays, is there, I mean, do we discuss that in any of our contracts? I mean, are we,
Well, Tesco is a sub to our Prime's electrical sub. So we specify what needs to be provided. Their sub goes out and is under contract with them.
what I'm curious is, can they use, when their sub has a supply chain problem, can they come back on us, or is it just on them?
So there's, in the contract documents, it talks about compensable and non-compensable delays, so. Material shortages, like due to, acts of God or force majeure or whatever it is, it references that, and this would fall underneath that specification section. So they're not, it's not a compensable delay, so they can't charge us for the delay, but in turn, we can't,
You can't charge them for not.
liquidating damages.
All right, well, that's fair. I'm just curious because this whole supply chain thing where I mean, you literally, there is no warehouse anymore. It's coming straight from the factory. You know, it's just crazy how it's changed in such a short period of time. You know,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Okay, any comments on 4C from the public?
No, thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to old business. We have 5A capital improvement updates.
Good afternoon. This is just a summary of the existing projects we have going on right now, primarily in construction. So you can see from our list, we don't have a slide presentation on this one, but there's some construction ones that maybe you can give an update as to the Copper Cove Water System Improvement Project, CIP. Some additional construction. Yeah.
Clearwell and B tank, TNS is moving along. We've poured the foundations for the new B tank and the Clearwell. We got the foundation of Clearwell poured last week. We should start backfilling around that tomorrow. We're starting site piping up at B tank site. And I think right now our tank contractor is scheduled to be on site to start constructing tanks in 2 or 3 weeks by the schedule. So it is moving along very well.
And then we have a West Point
Wilseyville wastewater. That project is pretty much sitting idle at the moment because of weather. But Emerson is getting geared up to start that again. We took delivery of the control building 2 weeks ago and got that set. So they've been working on some interior piping there. And come summer, spring, we should continue on with the force main over to Wilseyville Pond, and there's still a pump station, lift station to put in there. It's a gravity main, and then it'll be abandoning the old Wilseyville Pond, pulling part of that dam out and draining it and removing any sludge. So that should be scheduled to finish this year.
When you said you occupied the control building, that's not the building that had the fire?
No, this is a precast building that was purchased for this project that actually was set in place with the crane. It came in 2 pieces, the building and the roof. And it was trucked up to the site and we set it in place.
How large was that building?
Pretty large. We had to remove the gate post to get it in.
Would that be, going back to this Reed's Turnpike thing, would that building be adequately sized for that location?
It's way too big.
Too big? Oh,
And I think block building's way better.
okay.
Yeah, so that brings up the other point too, that West Point water supply reliability improvements.
So the filter project, the state, I think, is scheduled to come out next week to do their testing on that. and see the filter run, and then we'll get their sign off on it, and then that project is pretty much complete.
Yeah, we can close it out of that.
There's,
And in terms of the metal building that burned, that is on a separate track, being replaced by the contractor,
The roof only or the whole building?
to be determined.
yeah, that's discussions with the upper management here. So, but that was kind of separate from the filter addition.
That's about it in terms of overall. I'm gonna cover any of these other items.
Copper Code B to C, we're working with PVI on the design with that. Kevin's kind of leading up that project, so that's moving along.
And then I guess for Ebbets Pass, you got some environmental.
Oh, yeah, we're starting that at Arnold, wastewater treatment plant. We're doing the biological surveys and the cultural items there for the grant application, so we anticipate having a preliminary application to the SRF in the next couple of months. The full environmental that's required for the federal cross-cutting, which is like the state doesn't have a lot of money, so a lot of SRF funds come from the federal government, so they require a NEPA type cross-cutting document. You can still go category exempt on the CEQA, but you have to complete some of these cross-cutting items to fulfill funding obligations with the federal government. And then at Hunters, we got some positive news on that. I feel that they we got the final environmental documents from FEMA, which leads us kind of to believe that we're going to phase 2 here pretty quick for the construction of that pump station at the bottom of the reservoir.
Already, and that kind of summarizes some of our pending hot projects. The next, if you have any questions on that, please let us know in general.
Now, going to this Copper Cove BC transmission pipeline and pump station, what can you describe to me what's meant by this proposal from PBI for technical memorandum on relocating the line to Little John?
So we've gone ahead and moved forward with that work. So they're work on amending the 50% design. So there was some additional engineering costs, but we think we're going to save money on the back end with environmental because we're not going through all the flood areas and that type of stuff that we would have been going through on the cross country. So I think overall it's a cost savings, but there's some additional costs for surveying and stuff, but it was minor. And then so right now they're redesigning the line out of currently the line in our current tank project headed out towards the cross country route that was kind of behind the homes along Little John, where there's some steep terrain. So now we're moving out to Little John Road. So they got to redesign that first section of pipe as part of the current project to get us out to Little John. So we're ready to go once that project gets approved.
So instead of being over on CCWD property on the west side of that fence line, you're going to be out in.
Yeah, the active, we walked that route and it's steep terrain, rocky. I mean, it's got the rocks sticking out of the ground. And there's an area that floods ponds where it's ponding on both sides. And there was like a 10-foot easement where we could put the pipe in. There's no way to get out there with any kind of vehicle. I mean, there could be some improvements made along with that project to get access, but still it would be just to repair the pipe out in that property. It would be very difficult if there was an issues. Plus you have to add a bunch of air valves and blow offs and all types of extra infrastructure when you go through that terrain.
There was a lot of ink on paper on that previously planned routing. So I wonder why these issues didn't come up earlier.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody actually walked it or what, but it's bad out there. I mean, we did that on Reach 1 pipeline in Arnold where we went off the side of the road.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know if you remember that work, but that was where there was a road next to it where you could actually get stuff to it. This one, there's no access. There's one access road in that entire stretch to get out there. So the contractor would be driving up and down to get out there.
Well, I think it's a good move. I never really understood why it was going over on the CCWD property anyway. So.
Yeah.
But I've got recent experience that standing up rock doesn't matter. It's easy to get rid of. You have any questions on this stuff?
No, I do have just a comment. We used to have a format where we would get all the current projects by district and their status. Have we abandoned that or
By service area?
by district?
No, we have abandoned that. Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
I think we would just wanted to focus on service area identifiers rather than, you mean division? Like director division area?
Well, it was even just like, developments, it was a status of a development. It was a status of different improvements, capital improvements, but it was by district. So a director, and certainly some of them could overlap. But I don't, I kind of like that format because we're just kind of fishing through some things there, but and particularly at a regular board meeting, if a director wants to comment on a project in their district, they can refer to that.
Yeah, I think a while back, we decided to shift away from that and toward just identifying based on service area. That we could
All right,
talk about.
well, I'm not gonna, make a big deal of it, but it was easier for me to understand, keep track of the projects, because they would be, each month, they might say the same, they might change, but anyway, no worries. As long as we're getting all the information, it's fine.
Okay, are we through with capital improvement updates?
That's correct. I think
Okay.
we're on to the next item.
Next item,
Unless there's comments.
do we have public comments on the 5A?
Well, I'm going to surprise Director Davidson and fully and heartily support his request for district-specific groupings of projects. So it makes it easier to stay on top of these things and more transparency. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I think that we probably, it would be well within our rights to request the rationale for abandoning that other procedure. I liked it too.
Yeah, I'll chime in and second Francisco's motion there that such a tool would be very helpful, I think, to the public.
I think
Because if Mike, you had maybe a sample of what that looked like, an older version of it, so we could see what it represents, that would be helpful if such a thing exists.
Happy to revisit that. We can bring it back. I think in the past, the rationale was wanted to make sure we weren't creating the perception that we were making CIP decisions based on political divisions rather than project merits and other priorities. And that's not how we've ever made decisions, but we didn't want to have that perception even out there. So if people aren't concerned about that,
I don't know that I've ever heard of that being accused of the district. I mean,
we
so-
happy to bring it back.
I can visualize how it would make it better for people who live in individual areas like Valley Springs, to look at a sheet that shows what's going on in my neighborhood. So I think we should bring it back. Okay, thanks for those comments. We have item 5B, other updates from the engineering department.
Right, okay, so just to, I have no visuals for that one, but Copper Valley Town Square, as you know, they've got a lot of planned development in the town square area. We're working with them, meeting them regularly, and they're supposed to be submitting to us their plans for buildings 11 and 12 development on their site, and likewise for some townhomes that are being proposed there next door. We're waiting for those plans to show up so we can take a look at them and get them moving on those developments. Secondly is, of course, they're responsible for other offsite improvements, and we're working through those. One of them being the one that Juan just mentioned, the pump station that needs to be improved so that we could serve the area Gold Creek subdivision unit 3. Well, that one's coming back. It looks like the previous developer has it on the market for sale. And he has approached us in terms of what does he owe the district to kind of, close out that aspect with his business with the district so that he can sell the development to a new developer that's looking to start up unit 3. So we're working through those issues right now. And then let's see, Jenny Lynn Elementary School, of course, that's still on the books. It's still working through the state, Clean Water State Water Revolving Fund. I have no further update on that one. It's still pretty much out with the state architect in terms of their review of the project. And we're just waiting for the school district to contact us when they've gotten the funding approval.
Is that funding like 100%? Is that earmarked?
It definitely is. It's 100% is
It's not
earmarked.
something that could get thrown by the wayside with the budget.
Not to my knowledge. You're right, though. The state is running a little short on funding, but I think this one's been earmarked, so. So, so, and the school district's having its issues as well, but nonetheless, this project's still moving forward as far as we know.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about the economics at the school district, but that's,
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's 100% funded by the clean water, so I don't know if there's any local match for that.
so we don't have a time frame.
None yet. I mean, I know that the project manager was hopeful to get it, started sometime
Well,
early.
we've started this thing, what, 2.5 years ago? Is that about right? I mean, is the cost the same?
Oh, probably not. We know that costs do change, so he'll have to, at some point, he'll have to submit a change to the state to get it further funded for full funding.
Yeah. All right.
And then, of course, North Vista Plaza, we're continuing to work with them in terms of, what their proposed development is, and we're still leaning towards a force main from their development over to the gravity sewer that feeds Huckleberry. So that's still the current plan. They still owe us a couple of technical memorandums to address why this route is preferred over the, improving the pipeline, the sewer in the creek, basically, and constructability seems to be the biggest issue, but secondary is the environmental impacts of that as well. In order to get heavy equipment in there to replace that pipeline segment would mean, transgressing the creek itself. So they think, and I agree with them, that a force main in the roadway, it would be a much easier project. So again, they're still moving ahead with the project as far as we know, but we haven't seen their technical memorandums of addressing these two items. And then lastly, let's see, what's the next page on this one? Ah, here we go. Got it. So the other one, of course, is the Copper Cove wastewater tertiary treatment improvements. That's the U.S. Army Corps project that they're supporting the project on a 75-25% cost basis. And so we developed the project in two phases, or what they call two increments. Increment 1 being the treatment site improvements, and increment 2 being the pond, dam raise, and utility relocation improvements. Currently, what's active right now is the treatment site improvements. And looking at the schedule, I want to show you what we're looking at. It's really hard to see. I'm sorry for that, but not the best graphic, but the schedule. We've been developing a schedule with the Corps and yeah, as you can see, the critical path item is the environmental documentation. Unfortunately, the Corps says it needs a full environmental assessment. We can't lean on a categorical exemption for this project. We thought, that the Corps could adopt another federal agency's, categorical exemption for similar projects, but their command has decided, no, they cannot. So we're going through the EA, which means a lot more studies and whatnot. If you could see in the schedule, I could definitely demonstrate a copy, but the design effort is not the lead item, but it's more the environmental preparation and the environmental studies. So right now, what we have is a consultant, Dewberry, going out there, and they'll be doing the spring assessments and gathering all the data and putting out the report. which then you put into the whole comment phase of, you know, the NEPA procedure of going to, for public comment review for 60 days, et cetera, et cetera. So that pretty much pushes this schedule pretty far out. And we're looking at, you know, a year from now, perhaps bidding the project and then constructing it, you know, it'll take about a year after that. So right now, we propose to the Corps of separating out, at least on the treatment side, getting some pre-treatment done. We would lead that project. You know, CCWD would take the lead on that aspect of the project so that we can build something so that we can reduce the operational risk that the site, the treatment site currently has right now in terms of spillage. So we're asking the Corps to go ahead and review our proposal for us to pre-purchase the SAF, a saturated air filtration system, and putting it on site. It's a system that's constructed, takes about 8 months to build. It's trucked to the site. We put it, it's skid mounted. We prepare the site, place it there, connect it temporarily with piping and pumped to match the head requirements for the current filter. And then the Corps would continue with, we would continue with the Corps on a project of rebuilding the filters or building new filters to complete the improvements for the plant site for the tertiary treatment system. So it's a complicated project. The schedule is very long. The environmental aspects of it itself are quite lengthy. It can, like I said, it's just many steps involved with the Corps reviewing they're participating in this project. So they are, you know, in environmental studies, they are participating in that, and they are reviewing the product that we put out, or that our consultant puts out for that. Now, on the design side, luckily they don't. At first, they wanted to review every aspect of design, but treatment is not in their wheelhouse. So they kind of backed away from that requirement of having to spend months on our design in order, you know, to review it so that the Corps can build it. Because remember, this is a Corps project. They control the site, they build it. And so that's how this project is being delivered. It's a U.S. Army Corps will hire and procure the contracting services to get it constructed.
We talk a lot about, you know, supply chain problems and other things that have driven our cost up.
Right.
But do we ever take into account the new and improved environmental regulatory aspect and talk about the economic creep that causes the cost of some of our projects? Or do we just suck it up and just say whatever?
Pretty much. I mean, it's federal law, and we kind of have to, you know, if it's not CEQA, it's NEPA, and we kind of, for the most part, suck it up because it is federal law.
Well, it's just, you know, I just wish that there was some way to quantify it because, you know, we get a lot of grief for our project, you know, costs continually going up.
Right.
You know, it's we're just not causing it. We have to react to it, and nobody seems to know why all these things happen, but they happen because, you know, either the feds or the states create a new law that we have to comply with, whether it's reasonable or not. It doesn't matter. I mean,
No, I totally agree with
time and the effort in regards to the environmental, you know, issues on these projects is just, it's costing us a fortune.
Yes, this is fortunate or unfortunate, depending on your point of view. But addressing the environmental impacts of a project it started in 1972 and it's been growing since then.
It grows every year, though.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, do we have any comments from the public on this last report here on other updates? Seeing none. Okay, Mark, I'd like to ask you to go back to this Copper Valley Town Square segment here. Am I reading this? Weber Geo has now taken over the design of the force main along Little John?
That's my understanding as well. Yes.
Okay. And I don't know, this is kind of a chicken and egg type of thing, but do I understand that we're not in a position to sign off on all these additional building improvements and stuff until they get 100% design and
It's not 100% design. What we're looking for is utility plans. Typically, those are submitted with the grading plans. It's up to the developer when he wants to submit that. But typically, we like to take a look at the utility plans. We don't care about the architectural aspects of it.
Yeah.
We just want the utility plans. So we could confirm connectivity.
But if they want to get started on constructing some of these things and they're still 2 years away from being able to have a pipeline that they can use to service the existing facility and the new improvements. Now, what is, are we holding their feet to the fire about that?
I think we had a discussion with them here a week ago. They came over to our office and that was something that came up. We said, well, you know, how do we have some kind of agreement that before people move into these houses, or if Copper Valley goes away, who's going to be pumping this lift station out for, you know, forever, basically, right? So they were saying they were going to get a bond or that type of stuff so they can assure that that was their response to the question.
They have a number of unaddressed improvements that they still need, that the district has not accepted, one of them being the temporary storage and trucking issue that they have with the sewage right now. And they're only increasing the number of truck trips by adding more, more demand on that system. And if they're okay with that, it's a cost item for them. It's not a cost item for the district. But at some point, they're gonna have to move to the force main. And so, what comes first? It all depends. They have to guarantee that they're gonna construct needed improvements to serve the area.
Well, when you say it's not a cost item for us, but it isn't it? It's only logical that if you come, you pump out that temporary holding tank,
Storage tank,
to take 4,000 gallons of brand new effluent to the treatment plant. Doesn't that cause us? I don't know.
I'm sure
big-
operationally it does. It creates an additional.
They're paying sewer fees. I mean, they're paying their bills, right? So I mean, we're getting money out of them. Is that what
Okay.
you're asking?
Well,
It's probably more of an operational aspect of it, of them pulling into the plant and disposing of the.
I don't know how you quantify it, but I would think that you have more chemicals, more eyes on the system for material that's being delivered and dumped at 4,000 gallons at a time versus coming steadily through a pipeline into the system that's designed to take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what, it depends. I'm not familiar with the operations in terms of overall percentage of what that, pulse input rather than steady input, how it would be, vary. That's
Bill
something I would have to ask.
Cardinal could answer that. It might take a little while to get the answer, but
Mhm.
okay. General manager comments. I think has left the building. Director comments or future agenda items? None?
We covered a lot today.
Yeah, we did. We'll cover more and we'll address the aspect of putting in maybe the district areas that these projects are.
I thought it was a pretty simple format. I mean, we can,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could probably do both because that's just a running tab. You really wouldn't have a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
It's just every month we get to see, what the status of the projects are. Many times they don't change at all, but it's
Yeah.
just, it allows us the ability to keep track as well as the public.
Also knows that we're managing the project per the service area because that just makes logical sense for an engineer to look at the service area and all the needs within the service area as opposed to the political boundaries, which change, depending on the census.
They don't change every 10 years. They change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the report about the $11.2 million I don't call it an earmark that did survive the coordinating committee?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's
Got our
good.
fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. All we need is a budget.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe Haley could work on the budget on the federal level. Okay, any other comments of any kind?
This is Kate's last engineering committee meeting. Let's give her
Oh,
a
man.
hand, and she decided to go to the HR world, so, but thank you for your service in this transition.
Thank you for all your hard work in the past.
Is that the new office over in the,
Okay, it looks like we have, the next scheduled meeting will be May 7th. That's a long time. Okay, so this meeting then is adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your participation.
you all?